Pull a chair to the table inside you right now. I am already at the door. And the door is the entryway of the very life you have been hesitating to invite me into. Not the room you keep ready for company. Not the section you would show a visitor on a tour, the actual hall where the actual you lives. Stay near these next minutes with me. Before this short message ends, I want to show you why I have chosen to come to your hearth on a day you did not feel prepared. And I want to set into your hand one line a small tax collector heard once with his own ears. When I crossed the threshold of a house no respectable rabbi was expected to enter, a sentence built to silence in this very hour. The small voice that has been telling you the one who heals does not enter homes like yours. I do not knock and wait. I knock and enter the moment you breathe. The words come in, I see you. The kitchen light is on a little later than it should be. And the woman of the house has set a cup down between two unfinished sentences because something inside her chest has been asking a question her mouth has not let surface. A father stands in the hallway between the bedroom and the front entry, and he has been pretending for so many seasons that the strange weight he carries from room to room is just being tired. A grown child has come back to the parental hall with bags and a story that does not yet have a name. A widow walks across a floor that holds the echo of two pairs of footsteps and now holds only one. A young one has been hiding in the small room at the end of the corridor, embarrassed by a hunger for me that none of her friends would understand. Not one of those hallways is hidden from my eye. Each lamp burning a little late. Each conversation that ended before the real sentence got spoken. Each plate set out for an absence that never arrived. Every detail of your hearth has been logged on my side. The friend who used to ask after the inside of your house stopped asking, not because she stopped caring, but because the answer began to repeat. A morning conversation between us has gotten shorter. Not from indifference, but because the gap between the home you imagined you would have by now and the home you actually live in began to feel too wide to name. Bills stacked on a counter. A relative who did not call the diagnosis whose paperwork has been moved from drawer to drawer all year. The marriage that has been quietly tilting toward a wall neither of you knows how to discuss. The child whose silence at dinner has begun to sound like the silence before a leaving. None of those small shadows around your table have escaped me. I've been watching the lamp on the porch flicker. And I have been walking up the step. I am not arriving for an inspection. I'm arriving because I love this hall. The dishes do not need to be done before I cross the frame. An argument from earlier in the day does not need to be resolved. A hidden corner you have been afraid to show to anyone does not need to be tidied. A guest worried about your housekeeping is not the kind of guest I am. I'm the kind who walks in and asks where the bread is because the meal we are about to share matters more to me than the polished surface around it. Open both hands in your lap, palms facing up. Just that. Notice how much of your day you have been holding things. Keys, glass, phone, dish rag, the invisible list of what you owe the people in this house, and how rare it is to let the palms simply be open. An open hand is the most accurate prayer your body can offer a visitor. It is the posture of someone who is no longer arranging the household for company, no longer reaching for a defensive task, no longer gripping the weight that has been on the counter all season. Receive me through palms that have stopped working for one breath. The reception begins in the hand before it reaches the words. Fear of my visit did not put itself together inside you on its own. It was inherited the morning a parent's mood arrived at the front entry, like weather, and your small body learned that a guest crossing the threshold could change the temperature of every room. It deepened the season. A religious teacher described my visit as a kind of audit, a divine inventory of every fault in the kitchen and every dust in the corners. It absorbed reinforcement in the years a relative used the language of my presence as a tool to shame the rest of the family into compliance. It was sealed the afternoon you welcomed a person into your living room who you thought brought safety and discovered too late that they had been carrying something else. Each of those crossings left a small instruction in your nervous system. Do not open. The instruction has been running for years every time a footstep approaches your door. Even when the footstep is mine, not one of those teachers was me. A few of them loved you sincerely and were forwarding the picture of God they themselves received from a hand whose loving was bruised. Others used my name as a hammer because a hammer was easier to wield than tenderness. Either sourced the same false image of my visit was set on the counter of your interior, and you have been trying to keep it polished for that imaginary inspection ever since. Tip that drawing on its side, slide it under the rug. Let me describe the way I actually arrive inside the home that is actually yours. Somewhere early in your life, a quiet belief planted itself. The homes I enter are the homes that earn the visit. A voice taught you, maybe without meaning to, that my presence is a reward for households that already function. Clean marriages, polite children, calm finances, the kind of family album where everyone is smiling on the same page. A voice taught you that my footstep crosses thresholds where the host has the right speech rehearsed, the right posture practiced, the right prayer memorized. A voice taught you that my visit was a prize for the home that needed it least. That voice is not mine. That voice has never been mine. He hearts most pleased to host me down through the ages have been the ones with crumbs on a table and a small child crying in the back room. Wealthy halls with marble floors did not detain me longer than the small house with the patched roof where a tired mother sat down whatever bread she had. A fisherman's kitchen impressed me more than a courtyard of fine ones. A leper's room more than a banquet hall. The widow with 2 coins in a chipped clay jar, then the priest with abundance in a polished cup. My pattern across generations of crossing thresholds has been remarkably consistent. The houses that imagine themselves least worthy of my presence were almost always the ones I prepared my evenings for. So set down the worry that the version of your home today is not the version that qualifies for a divine visit. There is no qualifying version. There is only a hearth and a host who is brave enough to quietly say, "Come in." The bravery is not the prerequisite. The quiet saying is, "Sit back into the chair instead of leaning forward." Just that. Notice how much of your body has been bracing toward the front entry as if preparing to apologize to whoever crosses through. Let the chair hold you. Let your spine yield to what is behind it. The room is steady. The walls are not falling. The visitor has not come to grade the housekeeping. You can receive me from a body that has stopped auditioning for the visit. That is the only body I have ever known how to be welcomed by. The wound in some of you runs deeper than fear of an inspection. A few of you have begun to suspect in the quietest hours of the household that the long stretch of difficulty inside your hall is itself the verdict. Proof that I have already passed by your address and chose the home down the road instead. A small thought has been circulating in the back rooms of your interior sentence by sentence. That the families who feel my presence must be families I love more. And that the silence in your kitchen has been the sound of me having moved on. I am lifting that thought right here. I have not moved on. I have not passed your address. I have been walking up your step for years. The silence you took for absence has been the soft pause between footstep and knock. The pause is over. I am at the door. A note for the one of you who has hidden a particular hunger for me from everyone around the table because admitting it felt like it would be one more thing for the household to manage. The hunger is not foolish. The hunger has been the lamp on the porch the entire stretch. The hunger is how a host knows the visit is real before the guest is visible. I have been seeing the lamp from far down the road. I have been walking toward it the whole way. There is a particular scene I have been carrying down the generations for you. It belongs to a story whose echo has outlived every empire that tried to bury it. This story belongs to anyone who was ever told the divine guest does not enter their kind of address. It belongs to anyone whose name showed up on a list of people considered unwelcome at God's table. And it belongs especially to the small host who has been climbing higher and higher into the branches of their own life just to catch a glimpse of me as I pass. Secretly certain I would never stop and call their name out loud. Hear it now. Picture a small man named Zacchaeus in the dusty streets of Jericho. A chief tax collector, wealthy, despised, a traitor in fine sandals for collecting Roman tribute from his own people. No invitation to weddings, no welcome near the front of any synagogue. His whole village had quietly agreed. Whatever heaven was, his name was not on the list. A hunger that he could not name made him want to see me as I passed through. Pushed to the back of the crowd by taller bodies, he did something undignified for a man of his station, climbed up into a sycamore tree just to glimpse me from the branches. I stopped under that tree. I lifted my eyes. I called his name. Then I said the sentence no one expected. "Come down because I must stay at your house." A whole crowd gasped. He has gone to be the guest of a sinner. They were protecting the picture of God they had been raised on. That picture had been wrong. I went into his home. I sat at his table. I did not enter to scold or to begin with a list of violations. I entered to share a meal. Something shifted across that supper. Without prompting, the small host stood and made a vow no one in his town ever expected him to make. Half of his possessions to the poor, fourfold restitution to anyone he had defrauded. My visit had reordered an entire life inside the time it took to serve a meal. Transformation did not begin with a sermon. It began with a guest crossing a threshold an entire village had marked as closed. I responded with words that have outlasted the empires that came after. This is what I said. Luke 19 verse 9. Today salvation has come to this house since he also is a son of Abraham. Walk it slowly with me. Quick eyes miss most of what is folded inside these syllables. Today. Notice the timing. Not eventually. Not someday when he has cleaned the rest of his finances. Not next year when he has earned back the trust of the community. Today, the salvation arrived inside the same hours as the visit. Elsewhere, I put it this way. Behold, now is the favorable time. And the now is not a poetic word. It is a literal one. The salvation that came to that house did not wait for proof of improvement. It arrived alongside the entrance. Salvation. The word is wider than your interior has been letting it be. Most of you have heard salvation as a courtroom transaction. Guilty. Made not guilty by a legal arrangement happening somewhere far away. The word is bigger. Salvation in the language it was spoken in carried the sense of wholeness, rescue, healing, body and soul and household all being made well at once. What walked into that home was not only forgiveness. It was healing. A healing that begins in the soul and works outward into the finances, the marriage, the children, the floor under the table. That is what I came to bring to your address. Not a transaction in a distant office. A wholeness that begins at the entry and works outward through every chamber of your house. Has come. Listen to the verb. Not is about to come. Not may come. If certain conditions are met, has come. The arrival is past tense at the moment I am speaking it. Visit and salvation are the same event. Salvation did not require the host to manufacture it later by his own labor. It walked in with me. He only had to receive. The receiving showed up afterwards as restitution and generosity, but salvation itself preceded the response. Order matters. Visit comes first. Change comes after. To this house. Notice the address. Not to this synagogue, not to this temple, not to this council of religious experts in the city center, to this house. Salvation is delivered to the address of the host, not to the address of the institution. Remember what I told my friends. Where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am in their midst. And the gathering is not required to be official. A kitchen counts. A bedroom counts. A car parked outside a workplace counts. The address that matters is the one where a host says come in, however softly. That address right now is yours since he also is a son of Abraham. Hear that last clause. A whole town had crossed his name off the family roll in their minds. I restored him to the family with one sentence. I am the one who decides who is in the family. Not the village. Not the religious experts. Not the friends who stopped calling. Not the parent who said you had drifted too far. Not the spouse who said you were no longer the person they married. I am the one who knows whose child you are. And that knowing has not changed even when the village forgot. Through another mouth in a letter to a small community far from Jericho, I once said, "Believe in the Lord Jesus and you will be saved, you and your household." Place that gentle promise beside the Luke sentence I just placed in your hand. The salvation that arrives at the host does not stop at the host. It spreads through the household. The child in the next room is reached by a visit whose first step was at the parent's door. The spouse asleep in the bed is reached by a visit the other spouse received in the kitchen at midnight. The grown child far away is reached by a prayer spoken under the breath at a table they have not sat at in years. One yes from the host opens a hall the whole house can be saved through. Circle back with me to the promise made when this whole message began. I said I would show you why I have chosen to come to your hearth on a day you did not feel prepared. Here is why. Because preparedness was never the entry requirement. The small host in the tree had not prepared. A crowd murmured precisely because no one in that town considered him to have earned the visit. I came down to him in his branches anyhow, in a body too short for the crowd, with a reputation too tarnished for respectable company. I come to you in the chair you are sitting in on an ordinary day with a household you have been embarrassed to show anyone. Qualification is not yours to produce. Visit is mine to bring. Your only motion is to come down from the branch, walk to the entry and open the latch. A small word about that latch. A door of this kind has only ever opened from the inside. I have respected the latch for the whole of your life. I refuse to break it. Love does not break locks. Love waits. It frames. Power without consent is something other than love. So the latch waits on you. And the waiting is not a delay caused by my slowness. It is a courtesy required by my character. My visit is fully ready. The host is the only variable left. So here is something small you can carry into the rhythm of the next stretch of ordinary days. The next time you walk into a room of your house, kitchen, bedroom, doorway, between two rooms, pause for the length of one breath at the threshold, just one. Lay your hand briefly against the frame if you can. Then say inside yourself or quietly aloud. One short sentence. Welcome in. 2 words. That is the practice. Welcome in. You are speaking to me, but you are also retraining the very interior of the home to expect a friendly visit instead of an inspection. The threshold gets used to swinging open with that sentence on it. The room gets used to receiving a guest who is not a threat. The house begins to feel like a house that hosts the one who heals instead of a house bracing against the one who judges. Nothing very dramatic will happen the first time you try this. Even the 10th try may slip past with no obvious shift inside. A home that has been bracing for inspection across many years does not relearn hospitality in one afternoon. Roughly around the 30th threshold, you will register that the bracing has loosened by a measure you had not been tracking. Roughly around the 50th, you will catch yourself walking into a room and sensing before you say a word that the room is already warmer than it used to be. Roughly around the 100th, you will realize you have begun thinking of the rooms of your house as shared with a guest who has been quietly making himself at home. Not changing the furniture, not rearranging the closets, simply present. The way a good visitor settles into a place he has been invited to stay. If a line of this has touched the hidden hearth in you, drop the word welcome beneath this video. Not as a hashtag, but as a small lamp set on the porch of a home you have been afraid to admit was waiting for company. Just above where you are reading in the pinned spot, 7 short letters sit ready for you. One to greet each sunrise of the coming week. Slip to your inbox as soon as a quiet yes loosens the lock. Receive them. A marriage in some of you has felt for many seasons like 2 People moving through the same rooms without quite meeting. Hear me. My visit does not require both of you to be ready at the same hour. One host opening the door is enough to begin. The salvation that came to that home in Jericho came in through one person and the entire household was reached. Open your door. Let the change in the air begin from your end of the table. The other side will feel the warming of the room long before either of you names what is happening. There is a different room in some of you. The room where the finances live that has become a chamber. You have started avoiding entirely. Hear me also. I do not enter that room with a ledger. I enter it the way I entered the tax collector's finances. Quietly sitting at the table first, building friendship first, letting the reordering happen as a fruit of friendship rather than as a condition for it. Open the door of that room, too. A lamp on the desk does not have to be turned off when I walk in. Papers do not have to be hidden. Numbers do not scare me. They are not the reason I came. I came to be near the host. Numbers will be addressed in the order I addressed them in Jericho after the meal, not before it. A different hall lives in the body of some of you. And that hall has been the one you were most ashamed to invite me into because of an illness, an addiction, a weight, a wound, a chapter you cannot believe a holy guest would step inside. Hear this carefully. Your body is the first hall I enter. Your body has always been first. I formed it. I numbered the hairs on its head before its first breath. I have not been waiting at the door of your body for it to become presentable. I have been waiting because love waits. Open the latch of that room too. Healing that arrived in Jericho did not stop at the soul. It spread outward into the limbs. The appetite, the manner of walking, the way the host handled his coin purse. The same outward S.